All right, a couple days ago, I talked about the falsified reality of mobile gaming and how companies are intentionally deceiving their own customers with falsified ads. But today I want to go like 10 steps further and talk about the insanity of advertising itself. Why? Because you, watching this right now, at least 90% of you, are being led through the online world as a vehicle to maximize advertising dollars and nothing more. Here's the dramatic bit to make everyone feel like they have to keep watching the video, but the crazy thing is that it's not even really that exaggerated. Anytime you browse Google, you are, very likely, according to new testimony, not browsing what you actually searched for. Instead, you are browsing shadow terms that have been altered behind the scenes without your knowledge so that they present you with the most high-cost advertisements, and no one on either side of that equation seems to be aware of what's happening. Let me explain. Global ad spend, according to Marketing Dive, will grow 4.4% in 2023 and 8.2% in 2024, which will push the total over $1 trillion for the first time ever. In addition, quote, 5 companies, Alibaba, Alphabet, Amazon, ByteDance, and Meta, will attract 50.7% of global spending in 2023 and 51.9% in 2024. Their ad revenues are expected to increase by 9.1% in 2023 and 10.7% in 2024, while the rest of the industry remains stagnant. Long-winded and kind of technical, I know, but that's the key phrase right at the end there. These 5 companies, including Alphabet, the parent company of Google, will see a 10.7% revenue increase while controlling over 50% of the global spending budget, while the rest of the industry remains stagnant. Big numbers, obviously, and kind of scary stats for those that understand them, but consider those numbers in context. Worldwide, Google, as a search engine, consistently maintains over 90% market dominance. And basically the only countries where that dominance is ever disrupted are China and Russia. I'm sure there's a couple more, but when we talk about relative population, those are the big names. This means that Google as a platform serves the vast majority of planet Earth, really, if we're being honest. And while doing so, they earn hundreds of billions of dollars. Don't believe me? How about this? Over the past 10 years, from 2012 to 2022, Google's revenue from advertising in particular has quadrupled from roughly 50 billion to well over 200 billion. With 40,000 searches every second of the day. Suffice it to say, through controlling the gateway of information, Google, aka its parent company Alphabet, is one of the most, if not the actual most, powerful company in human history. All of this aims to demonstrate one key thing: monopoly. See, Google is, for the first time in its lifespan, at the epicenter for one of the largest antitrust actions in American history. The United States government is taking aim at what has become the singular dominant gateway between users and the World Wide Web, with a bevy of claims and potential consequences. I'm not a legal expert here, I'll be the first to admit that. I don't fully understand the intricacies of antitrust law or historical examples like the comparison to Microsoft, but what I do know is that this trial has managed to yield one very shocking revelation in particular, courtesy of Megan Gray at Wired magazine. Highest praise possible is required here because Megan Gray has authored work of the caliber that can make actual change in a tech-dominated landscape, and that's no small feat. Keep in mind, Google and Alphabet are fresh off the field of controversy after the Wall Street Journal accused the company of violating its own advertisement policies, claiming that as much as 80% of all ads being served had been placed on third-party websites where they would passively play in the background, on mute in some cases, effectively relegated to a state where no one would ever click on them or engage with the content. Google obviously denies that claim, of course, but the scope of those allegations were enormous and rightly caused controversy for some of their major clients. The research had reviewed over 1,000 separate brands across the web, making it fairly comprehensive in the grand scheme of things. One advertiser, speaking about the situation, said, quote, "This is a method for YouTube and Google to extract more budget and manufacture scale in a way that is palatable to the advertiser because they don't fully understand it," end quote. Now, that controversy in particular is old news. I didn't really focus on it at the time, but I was certainly aware of the research when it came out. However, looking back from here, knowing what we do now, according to Megan Gray at Wired magazine, well, the picture substantially changes. Here's the article. Obviously, I'll have it linked down below in the description for anyone interested, and here's a segment that explains why this kind of revelation in particular is a very, very big deal. Quote, "During one employee's testimony, a key exhibit momentarily flashed on a projector. In the mostly closed trial, spectators like myself have only a few seconds to scribble down the contents of exhibits shown during public questioning. Thus far, witnesses had dropped breadcrumbs hinting at the extent of Google's drive to boost profits, a highly confidential effort called Project Mercury, urgent missives to shake the sofa cushions to generate more advertising revenue on the search engine results page, SERP, distressed emails about the sustained decline in the ad-triggering searches that generate most of Google's money, recollections of how the executive team has long insisted that obscene corporate profit equals consumer good. Now, the projector screen showed an internal Google slide about changes to its search algorithm, end quote. That is very important because while engaging with the legal system, we just recently saw a huge example of this with Microsoft where they leaked massive amounts of internal projections and gaming targets. Companies are often compelled to reveal or accidentally reveal information that the public would otherwise never ever see. And this appears to be one such case. The sentiment vaguely echoes what was published in the Wall Street Journal prior to this, hinting at the goal of extracting more advertising dollars or shaking the sofa cushions, as they put it. But it also raises some eyebrows when we compare raw sentiment versus quarterly results. See, we already discussed the colossal amount of advertising growth that Google experiences kind of like clockwork alongside a few other industry giants while the rest of the field remains relatively stagnant. So how could it be that such an air of desperation had set in at the company? Let's find out. Quote, "This on-screen Google slide had to do with a semantic matching overhaul to its SERP algorithm. When you enter a query, you might expect a search engine to incorporate synonyms into the algorithm as well as text phrase pairings in natural language processing. But this overhaul went further, actually altering queries to generate more commercial results." Altering queries? Really? Deceptively altering queries or results has been something people are afraid of for a very long time when it comes to Google, but the most common criticism usually surfaces with regards to political themes. They suppress me because I'm conservative, or they change the results to favor a particular candidate in a given presidential race or something like that, etc., etc. The most common criticism you will hear about search engines is that they control what you see for some kind of broader agenda. But this right here is different. This would seem to indicate that they are controlling what you see, very deliberately, not for the politics, but they're controlling what you see for the ad dollars. Let's read on. Quote, "Google likely alters queries billions of times a day in trillions of different variations. Here's how it works. Say you search for children's clothing. Google converts it, without your knowledge, to a search for Nikolai brand kidswear, making a behind-the-scenes substitution of your actual query with a different query that just happens to generate more money for the company, and will generate results you weren't searching for at all. It's not possible for you to opt out of the substitution. If you don't get the results you want and you try to refine your query, you are wasting your time. This is a twisted shopping mall you can't escape." End quote. There it is. And the best part, that's according to Megan Gray at Wired, not me, so whoop-de-fucking-do, because thankfully I'm not the one who could ever get sued for talking about any of this. That statement on its face is just absolutely bonkers wild. Think about it. Google receives over 40,000 searches per second every day, and it is the dominant internet portal of planet Earth. And the accusation has now been made, eyewitness testimony to be precise, based on disclosure in a court of law. The accusation has now been made publicly that the company will simply alter results of user queries so that those results receive high-value ads. That is insane. That means that every single time you run a search, Google can secretly change what you are searching for to include any keyword it wants, which then returns advertisements from particular companies who just maybe happen to be the ones that pay the most money, basically turning itself from a portal of information into an adjustable funnel of human clicks that can be pointed at whatever construct is the most lucrative for them. Extrapolate this one step further and the picture solidifies that if true, Google would no longer be a place where you search for information or engage with the actual internet. Google would just be a house of mirrors where the populated results can be a selection of corporate brands that are unavoidable. Imagine searching for local small restaurants and having your terms changed to chain restaurants near me. You wouldn't even be aware of that change, but your results would now be filled with the likes of Applebee's and Red Robin, while Google harvests a much larger, higher advertising payout when you click something from those large brands, and the actual goal of your search in the first place is completely lost. This kind of inception point switch, if you will, can make the company rich, very rich. According to Megan Gray, it already is making them rich, and yet the real loser is you or me, the customer. Larger advertising brands also suffer to a degree since the ads they pay for are being served to an audience who isn't even really looking for that in the first place. But ultimately, if they pay well enough, they can be shown practically everywhere, even again when you're not looking for them, even when the query had nothing to do with their keywords. That means worse results from the campaign, the advertising campaign, obviously, but they still likely acquire some results, thereby making it tricky to determine how bad the impact would be overall on their budget. I don't know. Honestly, that part's just up in the air. I don't actually care about protecting the integrity of big brand advertising so much as I care about the idea that when I search for something, it's not even being shown to me. because the company behind the curtain decided to change what I had typed to something with a higher CPM. That's ridiculous, but that is exactly what has been described right now based on evidence from Google's very own ongoing antitrust case. Regardless, I wasn't in the room, I didn't see it for my own eyes, and I can't pretend to know exactly how it all gets executed on the back end, if it is actually happening. But the pattern is there. The details really do make sense, and the subject is one that I felt compelled to discuss because it basically showcases, if true, that we don't even have the freedom to search for information online anymore. We're just being led by the nose from one advertisement to the next, never even seeing the switch get made in the first place. That's genius, but evil. Kind of evil genius. Anyway, that's it. If you want to support, there are links down below. One of the main things is a VPN, a virtual private network affiliate. Everybody is obsessed with VPNs right now, so if you want one, you can use my link to help the channel. Good deal down below. Also, Patreon, locals, and channel memberships, plus more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.